Chapter 2253. Take off your veil. On one hand, Yun Chujio was reluctant to let Di Biming leave. On the other hand, she felt sorry for Di Biming as he fought alone. Not only was she unable to help him, but she was also a burden to him. How useless! This fellow cried for a while and wiped his tears. He had to become stronger as soon as possible. He only fell asleep in a daze when the sky was about to brighten. Just as she was sleeping soundly, the sound of Jinji knocking on the door could be heard from outside the courtyard. "Little Jio, let's go. If we don't leave now, we'll be late for class." Yun Chujio had no choice but to get up, wash up randomly, and come out with a meat bun in her mouth. When Jinji saw that Yun Chujio's eyes were red and swollen, she could not help but ask worriedly, "Little Jio, what happened to your eyes?" "What happened?" Your lips." Yun Chujio turned around after realizing what had happened. She took out a mirror and looked into it. Her eyes were red and her lips were slightly red and swollen. Her face was immediately on fire. She was stunned for a moment. Then she took out a veil and covered her face. Although her eyes were red and swollen, it was still better than letting others see her swollen lips. Jinji rolled her eyes and guessed it. She couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. "Little Jio, could it be that someone came last night?" Yun Chujio's thick face became even redder. "Humph! Don't laugh at me. The little madman will be away with the gigolo for a while. When that time comes, you won't be able to see him." Jinji blushed and stamped her feet. "I was kind enough to care about you, but you teased me and ignored you." The two of them were laughing and joking around. Shui Wuji came out of the yard yawning. "What are you guys doing so early in the morning? Little sister Jio, why are you wearing a veil? What's wrong with your eyes? Which reckless person provoked you?" Yun Chujio laughed dryly. "Brother Wuji, you're thinking too much. I just read a storybook last night and couldn't help crying when I saw the sad part." "Then why are you wearing a veil?" Shui Wuji frowned and asked suspiciously. "Brother Wuji, why do you have so many reasons? What time is it now? Let's hurry to the classroom." Yun Chujio quickly changed the topic. In her heart, she blamed a certain someone who did not know how to take care of a beautiful woman. How annoying! Shui Wuji rubbed his nose. Seeing that Yun Chujio was not willing to say anything, he had no choice but to give up. The three of them quickly arrived at the first grade's star class classroom. Perhaps it was because Yun Chujio had taught Jai Shanshan a lesson yesterday, the star class students were much more obedient. Although many people were very curious when they saw Yun Chujio's red and swollen eyes and the veil that she was wearing, no one dared to discuss it. After Yun Chujio sat down, she took out a swelling-reducing pill and secretly rubbed it on her lips. It was estimated that the swelling would disappear in a short while. After Teacher Dong entered, his gaze fell on Yun Chujio and he frowned. With an unfriendly expression, he said, "Mo Fong Chao, how is it proper for you to wear a veil in class? Hurry up and take it off. Otherwise, you won't be attending this class." Yun Chujio's heart was originally seething with anger because of Di Biming's departure. She immediately stood up and said coldly, "Teacher Dong, which rule in the academy's rules doesn't allow students to wear a veil in class?" Teacher Dong was even more displeased when he saw that Yun Chujio actually dared to contradict him. He slammed the table. "Regardless of whether the academy's rules have rules or not, I have the final say in this spiritual energy class. Are you going to take off your veil or go out? You trash, you still dare to contradict the teacher? How outrageous." Chapter 2254. The Abused Constitution of the Heavenly Tao Cliff. Yun Chujio kicked the table over. "If you don't want to go, then don't go. What's so great about it?" After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she walked out of the classroom with ease. Teacher Dong was so angry that he almost fainted. He pointed at Yun Chujio's back and didn't know what to scold. Shui Wuji and Jinji originally wanted to follow her out, but when they received Yun Chujio's glance at them, the two of them didn't move. Jinji secretly opened the recording stone and recorded the content of the class. When they went back, they could play it for little Jio to listen to. In this way, it did not matter if they did not attend the class. When Teacher Dong recovered from his shock, he naturally belittled Yun Chujio. She had no manners, did not respect her teacher, did not have a future, and was a good-for-nothing. Shui Wuji clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. If it was not for Jinji giving him a look, this fellow would probably have kicked the table and left. After Teacher Dong scolded him for a long time, the class finally began. After Yun Chujio left the classroom, she was very annoyed and directly went to the Heavenly Dao Cliff. Since everyone could only accept the inheritance once, the Heavenly Dao Cliff was usually very deserted and almost no one would come. Yun Chujio sat on the ground and was unhappy. She picked up the pebbles on the ground and threw them onto the Heavenly Dao Cliff. The Heavenly Dao Cliff was about to cry. What was this little pervert doing here? Besides, if you came, so be it. Why did you hit it with pebbles? Ahem, little girl, what's wrong with you? The Heavenly Dao Cliff felt a little awkward, so he asked. None of your business. You son of a bitch. Yun Chujio said in a bad mood. The Heavenly Dao Cliff was so angry that he almost passed out. She was clearly being kind, okay? You will lose your friends if you do this. Yun Chujio obviously felt that she was venting her anger. She said in a muffled voice, I feel that I am very useless. I am a waste. Every time I break through, there must be heavenly lightning descending. It has been a long time since I broke through. Tiandaoya asked timidly, then when was the last time you broke through? It has been almost 4 months. Why didn't the damn heavenly lightning strike me? Could it be that the heavenly lightning in the eastern continent is stupid? It is simply a vegetable lightning. Yun Chujio said angrily. The Heavenly Dao Cliff decided to wait for a while. They hadn't broken through for 4 months, and now they were anxious? Many people only broke through after several years, okay? This little pervert was really eager to succeed. Yun Chujio muttered for a while. Seeing that the Heavenly Dao Cliff didn't pay attention to her, she threw a handful of stones at it angrily. Tell me, why didn't the heavenly lightning strike me? The Heavenly Dao Cliff felt that this little pervert in front of him was probably the only one in the world who would ask such a question. Wasn't he crazy? He actually wanted the heavenly lightning to strike her. However, this guy was a pervert and could not be reasoned with. I guess it's not the time yet. Isn't there a good saying, it's not the time yet? After saying that, the Heavenly Dao Cliff regretted it. It was over. He had said it without saying anything. Sure enough, Yun Chujio angrily took out a raw egg and threw it at the Heavenly Dao Cliff. You're the one who's going to suffer retribution. You bastard Cliff. Tian Dao Cliff felt that it might have a masochistic constitution. Logically speaking, this little pervert had bullied it so much, so it should have ignored her. However, it could not help but say slyly, little girl, everything is about luck. You can't force it. Yun Chujio suddenly stood up from the ground, and Tian Dao Cliff was shocked. Yun Chujio said firmly, I never believe in some bullshit fate. My fate is in my hands, not the heavens. Even Tian Dao old bastard can forget about playing with my life. Chapter 2255. Shao Tian, my fate is in my hands, not in the sky. Old bastard Tian Dao? Tian Dao Cliff was stunned by Yun Chujio's words. It originally thought that this little girl was just a little crafty, relying on some small tricks and schemes to trick it. It did not expect this little girl to be so domineering. However, Tian Dao Cliff still felt that Yun Chujio was young and impetuous. Tian Dao was the ruler of this world. What right did a little girl have to go against Tian Dao and control her own fate? Just as Tian Dao Cliff was indulging in his wild thoughts, Wu Yun saw thick and heavy dark clouds gathering in the distance. He was shocked. It must be that the little girl's words just now had angered Tian Dao. He was going to send down heavenly lightning to kill her. She was really a demon. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. This was great. The good opportunity to break through had come. However, he had to do some preparations first. Yun Chujio took out the voice transmission talisman and said to Jinji, Beauty Jinji, I want to go to the deep valley of hell below the Heavenly Dao Cliff to have a breakthrough. Next time, you can help me apply for a leave of absence during the beast taming class. Just say that I have diarrhea. After Yun Chujio put away the voice transmission talisman, she took out a handkerchief to wrap her hair properly, Then she said to the heavenly Tao cliff with a smile, "Little Tiantin, come, bring me to the bottom of the valley below. I'm going to be struck by lightning." Ha! I'm finally going to be struck by lightning. This is great. Tian Dao Cliff was no longer able to complain about little Tian Tian. It felt that it was necessary to remind the crazy woman in front of it, "Little girl, the heavenly lightning is coming menacingly. Are you sure you want to go to the bottom of the valley? There might be someone on top who can help you carry a few heavenly lightning bolts. If you go down there, no one will be able to help you." "Little Tiantan, I didn't expect you to have such a good heart. Don't worry, the heavenly lightning can't kill me. Hurry up and bring me down." Seeing that Yun Chujio was determined, the heavenly Dao Cliff had no choice but to teleport her to the bottom of the valley. A thought flashed through the heavenly Dao Cliff's mind. Should I do something to kill this little brat? After thinking for a while, he gave up. Firstly, if he couldn't kill her, the little brat wouldn't forgive him. Secondly, he really wanted to see what would happen to this little brat who said, "My fate is in my hands, not the heavens," in the future. After Yun Chujio was teleported to the bottom of the valley, she found an empty space and sat down cross-legged, waiting to be struck by lightning happily. Her side was quite beautiful, but the people of Xingtian Academy were a little uneasy because of the abnormal weather. Although it was usually cloudy and rainy, the dark clouds this time were too heavy, right? It didn't look like rain, but more like heavenly thunder. Could it be that Tian Dao wanted to kill the Mo Fong grass with the heavenly thunder spirit root? As the dark clouds grew heavier and heavier, even the students in the classroom felt uncomfortable. Moreover, the sky had clearly darkened. Dean Gongsun of Xingtian Academy and a few vice deans gathered together. They looked at the dark clouds in the sky and discussed, "What's going on? This looks like heavenly thunder. Could it be that they are here to kill that Mo Fangchao? It doesn't seem like it. That Mo Fangchao should be in the classroom. However, those dark clouds are gathered near the cliff of Tiandao. Could it be that the thing from the deep valley of hell didn't die last time? Is that why it attracted heavenly lightning to kill it? What you said makes sense. It's probably because that thing revealed itself after Mo Fangchao and the others went down last time. That's why Tian Dao asked heavenly lightning to kill it." Yun Chujio did not know that everyone had already made up an excuse for her. This fellow was sitting there with Xiao Hanio and Xiao Mogu to share the spoils. Chapter 2256. I've decided to eat dirt. This heavenly thunder isn't easy to come by. You guys just need to absorb some later. Leave more for your master. It's not easy to get criticized once. Yun Chujio looked at the two next to her and said with disdain, "Master, this isn't right. You're such a big landlord and you still need this little bit of thunder?" Xiao Hanio said with dissatisfaction while staring at the green bean-like eyes. Although Xiao Mogu did not make a sound, it had already stretched out its mycelium. Obviously, it was prepared to absorb a little more later. All right. Later, remember to scold the heavenly thunder for me. Try to let it strike a little longer. Master, don't worry. I'm the best at scolding thunder. You just wait and see. The heavenly Dao Cliff really heard it. It felt that Yun Chujio, that ugly bird, and that Xiao Mogu had all gone crazy. That was heavenly lightning, all right? It wasn't food, all right? And they even snatched it. Were they all fighting to die? What was wrong with them? At this moment, Wu Yun was already very thick and heavy. Almost all of them were gathered at the top of the deep valley of hell. Rumble! A purple lightning tore through the sky and struck down towards Yun Chujio. Xiao Hanio flapped its two short wings and flew with all its might. It was completely satisfied. Burp! I feel so good after being struck by the bird. Xiao Hanio landed on the ground unsteadily. One of its wings pointed at the sky while the other supported its stomach as it shouted. The heavenly Dao Cliff was simply dumbfounded. This ugly bird was actually not struck to death? Moreover, it looked like it was enjoying itself very much. What kind of monster was this? Wu Yun, who was in the sky, was also a little confused. Wasn't it sent to strike that little girl with the heavenly lightning spirit root? What was with that ugly bird that was black? Why was there still someone who wanted to be struck by lightning? However, Wu Yun did not think that it mattered. At most, he would just strike a few more times. In any case, the end result would be the same. Regardless of whether it was that little girl or that ugly bird, they would all be struck into ashes. Thinking of this, Wu Yun fired another bolt of lightning at the Xiao Hanyo on the ground. Unexpectedly, Xiao Mogu used a few mycelium to secretly poke and cut off Xiao Mogu's beard. After Xiao Mogu was struck by the lightning, his body flickered with a 7-colored radiance, looking very beautiful. The Xiao Hanyo was immediately displeased. Xiao Mogu, no one would do this to you. Do you know that I am the boss? If you dare to stop me again, I'll decide to eat dirt from now on. I'll swallow all the dirt in the spiritual beast pouch for you. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. The dirt? So that's how you eat dirt. Xiao Mogu felt guilty and buried herself in the dirt, afraid that Xiao Hanyo would continue to lose his temper. Alright. It's not like there's only one bolt of lightning. If you have the ability, why don't you let Wang Ba Yun in the sky strike a few more times? Have a bit of the boss grace. Yun Chujio held back her laughter and said. Only then did the little black bird let Xiao Mogu go. Wu Yun pointed his short wings at the dark clouds in the sky and said arrogantly, Bastard, are you a chicken? Can you only lay one egg at a time? No, you're not even as good as a chicken. When a chicken is in a good mood, it can even lay 2 yellow eggs. You only know how to strike one bolt after another. You're simply trash. The dark clouds in the sky had never been insulted like this. When ordinary people encountered lightning, they would have already knelt down and begged for mercy. However, this ugly bird actually ridiculed Wu Yun for being inferior to a chicken. Even if Wu Yun could endure it, he could not endure it. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of heavenly lightnings struck down in succession. Heaven Dao Cliff could not bear to watch. That ugly bird was really courting death. This time, it was going to be hacked into ashes. Chapter 2257 did not leave a single person alive. Just as Heavenly Dao Cliff was cursing in his heart, he heard an arrogant voice say, TSK, if you have the ability, why don't you strike again? This little bit of heavenly lightning isn't enough for me to stuff the gaps between my teeth. Heavenly Dao Cliff was shocked. Not only was the ugly bird not struck to death, it seemed to have become even more lively. Heavens, what exactly was this ugly bird? Wu Yun in the sky was also caught unprepared. This ugly bird actually didn't die? When it heard Xiao Hanyo's provocation, it naturally flew into a rage. One after another, heavenly lightning struck down again. Xiao Hanyo rolled his possessed eyes. Xiao Mogu, this time you can cut it off. In the future, don't say that I won't protect you, boss. Xiao Mogu thought, Pooey. Well said, I'm afraid you've eaten your fill? Although Xiao Mogu was cursing in its heart, when the lightning descended, its mycelium still managed to stop the lightning. The heavenly Dao Cliff was already dumbfounded. Not only was that ugly bird a pervert, but this Xiao Mogu was also a pervert? Could it be that the smelly girl was planning to let these 2 spiritual pets help her share the lightning? That must be the case. However, from the looks of it, the ugly bird seemed to have reached its limit. The heavenly lightning had just begun, so she must have made a wrong calculation. Wu Yun struck out dozens of heavenly lightning bolts in one go. Most of them were intercepted by Xiao Mogu, and only a small portion of Xiao Hanyo was devoured. Wu Yun was furious when he saw that Xiao Mogu and Xiao Hanyo were safe and sound. He thought about it and decided to forget about it. After all, his target this time was the little girl with the heavenly lightning spiritual root. He would just have to kill her and ignore these 2 perverts. Wu Yun thought about it and adjusted his direction. Dozens of heavenly lightning bolts struck Yun Chujio. The heavenly Dao Cliff took a deep breath. It was over. It was over. Dozens of heavenly lightning bolts struck at once. The little girl was going to die. However, after this wave of heavenly lightning, it took a look and saw that the little girl was fine. She was doing the thought work for the 2 little perverts. Xiao He, Xiao Mogu, you guys have almost absorbed enough. Don't intercept Master's heavenly lightning. Master, This heavenly lightning hasn't been opened for 3 years. It has been opened for 3 years. We have to be full, right? Xiao Hanio burped as he said. He felt that he could still swallow more than 10 heavenly lightning bolts. Xiao Mogu rubbed the mycelium on Yun Chujia's body with a coquettish look. Obviously, it had not absorbed enough thunder. Yun Chujio spread her hands. Alright. I'll let you guys do it first. There are not many kind-hearted masters like me. The Heavenly Tao Cliff had an illusion that the 3 perverts were talking about something delicious and not the thunder that could kill people. The dark clouds in the sky were twitching. Wu Yun didn't care about the gradual process anymore. Right now, he only had one thought, and that was to kill the 3 perverts on the ground, not leaving a single one alive. Boom, boom. The earth-shaking thunder changed the entire Tianluo city. Even the area within a radius of several hundred li was covered by the loud thunder. Bai Li's voice was extremely loud. Almost everyone's hearts were filled with fear and unease. What exactly was the reason for attracting such a huge amount of heavenly lightning? Could it be that some demonic beast or evil cultivator that the Heavenly Tao couldn't tolerate had appeared? Dean Gongsun and the others from the Heaven Punisher Academy were even more worried. This heavenly lightning was clearly aimed at the depths of hell. Just what could have attracted so much heavenly lightning? If it could kill them, that would be for the best. But if it couldn't kill them, if that thing came out, it would probably be a disaster for everyone. An hour passed, for hours passed. Chapter 2258 had been missing for 8 lifetimes after 6 hours. Other than a few more deep pits, there was nothing unusual. Yun Chujio was still happily devouring the lightning. Xiao Hanio and Xiao Mogu had already eaten their fill, so Yun Chujio put them into the spirit beast bag. Heavenly Tao Cliff was dumbfounded. Oh God, what kind of monster was this? The heavenly lightning had struck for 6 hours and she was still alive? It turned out that this little girl was not bluffing when she said that the heavenly lightning could not kill her. She was indeed a pervert. Wu Yun in the sky was about to go crazy from anger. After striking for 6 hours, he still could not kill the little girl below. If this news were to spread, he would not be able to survive in the dark cloud world anymore. He had to work harder. He had to kill her today. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours had passed. Yun Chujia's expression became serious. She felt that she was about to reach her limit. The heavenly lightning in the eastern continent was obviously more powerful than the heavenly lightning in the western continent. Even though the 3 malefic stars in her body were constantly devouring the power of the lightning, the endurance of her meridians was limited. At this moment, she was already feeling a little uncomfortable. Yun Chujio raised her head to take a look. The dark clouds in the sky seemed to still have quite a bit of the power of the lightning. What should she do? Could it be that she was really going to be struck to death by the heavenly lightning? The dark clouds in the sky seemed to have also noticed Yun Chujia's strange behavior. Their hearts were filled with joy, and the heavenly lightning struck down even more fiercely. Xiao Hanio and Xiao Mogu were clamoring in the spirit beast pouch to come out and help Yun Chujio share the burden. Yun Chujio knew that they had already absorbed to their limits, and the result of them coming out was that they would most likely explode and die. So she did not agree. Yun Chujio could not help but smile bitterly. It was really ironic. Previously, they were still competing to devour the heavenly lightning, but now, they could not wait for Wu Yun to get lost. The Heavenly Tao Cliff also noticed that Yun Chujio could not take it anymore and could not help but sigh. This little girl was still too arrogant. If she was up there, perhaps the people from the Heaven Punisher Academy would be able to help her withstand a few heavenly lightning bolts. There was no one at the bottom of the valley who could help her. She was just waiting to be hacked into ashes. The Heavenly Tao Cliff was still feeling conflicted. On one hand, it felt that it was quite satisfying. After all, Yun Chujio had extorted 2 of its inheritances and even called it Wang Baya. On the other hand, it felt that it was a pity for this little pervert to die just like that. After all, it was rare for someone to be able to withstand 6 hours of lightning. Just as the Heavenly Tao Cliff was thinking about it, it saw Yun Chujio suddenly raise her head and smile at it. For some reason, the Heavenly Dao Cliff had an ominous feeling in its heart. Little Tian, we can be considered old friends. You can't just stand by and watch me die, right? I'll hide in the cave ahead. If you're affected, help me withstand the lightning for a while. As Yun Chujio said that, she ran forward. In a short while, she entered the cave where the netherworld flower of 9 was hiding. Tian Daoya was stunned at first, then he was so angry that he started to curse. Stupid girl! Get out here. You are trying to frame me. You have lost your virtue for 8 lifetimes. How can I know such a disaster like you? Yun Chujio's smiling voice came from the cave. You are wrong. You should have accumulated your virtue for 8 lifetimes. This is your opportunity. Little Tian. Tian Dao was so angry that he almost fainted. This sinister and cunning little girl was really too mean. If she was at the bottom of the valley, he could still get her to the top of the cliff. But now that she was in the cave, he could not even get her up. The dark clouds in the sky did not care about the relationship between the two of them. They were already red-eyed from the lightning strikes. They shot several bolts of lightning at the cave where Yun Chujio was staying. Chapter 2259. The Heavenly Dao Cliff that took the blame. The heavenly lightning was extremely powerful, causing the rocks on the cliff walls to fall down one after another. However, Yun Chujio was in the cave. Even though a portion of the lightning had entered the cave, its power had been greatly reduced. To Yun Chujio, it was a piece of cake. This fellow now had the mood to relax. Naturally, his mouth was not honest. Little Tian, this is still the Heavenly Dao Cliff after all. The dark clouds above did not even greet you before they struck you. This means that they don't take you seriously at all. Are you really going to endure it like this? Little Tian, I thought you were pretty awesome. I didn't expect you to be so mediocre. Being frightened to such an extent by a piece of Wang Ba Yun, I think you're not as powerful as me. At the very least, I can still withstand the heavenly lightning for 6 hours. It can't be that you can't withstand it for 2 hours, right? Little Tian, this soldier can be killed but not humiliated. This Wu Yun clearly doesn't take you seriously. In the future, don't call yourself the Heavenly Dao Cliff. I think you should just call yourself the Dregs Cliff. You are too cowardly. Little Tian, do you know why Wu Yun is so arrogant? It is bullying you that you cannot move. It is looking down on you. Heavenly Dao Cliff was already filled with anger after being framed by Yun Chujio. Now that Yun Chujio urged it, it turned its anger onto Wu Yun. That's right. It was not it who took the initiative to hide and protect that wretched girl. It was she who ran in on her own. Wu Yun attacked it without any reason. It was really bullying the cliff. Coincidentally, at this moment, several bolts of lightning struck down. The top of the Tian Dao Cliff suddenly emitted 10,000 golden lights, blocking all the heavenly lightning. Yun Chujio secretly peeked out a small head. When she saw the situation in the sky, she couldn't help but secretly laugh. This Tian Dao was really interesting. In the future, she would bully it less. This fellow was happy. Wu Yun was almost out of breath. Although he was conscious, he didn't know how to speak. Otherwise, he would definitely scold the Tian Dao Cliff. Is there something wrong with your brain? You are the Tian Dao Cliff. Why are you still helping that smelly girl to block the heavenly thunder? Wu Yun was extremely angry, but the people from the Heaven Punisher Academy were all dumbstruck. Heavens, what was going on? Why was the Heaven Dao Cliff still fighting against the heavenly lightning? Could it be that the Heaven Dao Cliff was the one that the Heaven Dao couldn't tolerate? This was impossible. Dean Gongsun pondered for a moment and guessed, do you guys think that the Heaven Dao Cliff has gained sentience and is transcending the tribulation? Dean, what you said makes sense. No wonder the heavenly lightning is so powerful. It turns out that the Heaven Dao Cliff has gained sentience. That's right, I agree with Principal. If the Heavenly Dao Cliff gained sentience, it would be a joyous occasion for our Xingtian Academy. If the Heavenly Dao Cliff knew that all the blame was placed on its head, it would probably be furious. It was clearly just a bystander, all right? Why did it become the main culprit after being struck by the heavenly thunder? Wu Yun hated the Heavenly Dao Cliff even more than Yun Chujio because it felt that the Heavenly Dao Cliff was a shameless traitor. It was fine if it did not help to take care of that stinky girl, but it actually helped that stinky girl to fight against it. It was really detestable. Therefore, Wu Yun simply ignored Yun Chujio and hacked at the Heavenly Dao Cliff. The temper of the cliff of the Tian Dao also rose up. He thought to himself, "Are you that awesome just because you're floating in the sky? No matter what, I'm still a cliff of the Tian Dao. You really don't put me in your eyes. Today, let's see who is more powerful." Chapter 2260. A slap to the face. The Heavenly Dao Cliff had accumulated for hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years. It was even more powerful than an ordinary divine weapon. If they were to really compete, how could a few lightning bolts be its match? The last time Yun Chujio succeeded in extorting him, it was only because the Heavenly Dao Cliff was not involved in worldly affairs and was very simple. That was why she was tricked by Yun Chujio. Otherwise, even 10,000 Yun Chujio would not be a match for the Heavenly Dao Cliff. Therefore, even though the dark clouds in the sky struck down all the remaining lightning, they were blocked by the golden light of the Heavenly Dao Cliff. In a short while, they dissipated. Wu Yun flew away trembling. It was obvious that it was very angry. It decided to go back and complain. It had to deal with the Heavenly Dao Cliff that was betraying it. When Yun Chujio saw that Wu Yun had flown away, she climbed out of the cave. Why did she have to climb? Because the entrance of the cave had been buried by more than half of the rocks that had been cut down. This guy had no choice but to climb out. Little Tian Tian, no wonder you are called the Heavenly Dao Cliff. You are indeed a hero. Let me tell you, I have seen a lot of divine artifacts and the artifact spirits of mystical realms. Only you are the most righteous, the most powerful, and the most domineering. Even a pervert like me is willing to admit defeat. Yun Chujio was afraid that the Heavenly Dao Cliff would settle the score later. She quickly covered it up. Although the Heavenly Dao Cliff was simple, it was not stupid. It naturally knew that Yun Chujio was giving it a sweet slap. It snorted coldly. Don't think that I can forgive you just because you praise me. Just stay at the bottom of the valley. Even if you climb halfway, I can still get you down." The Heavenly Dao Cliff felt that Yun Chujio would definitely cry and beg for mercy after hearing what it said. Who would have thought that this fellow would say with a smile, "Little Tian Tian, you are really understanding. I have just broken through, and it is also extremely good to stabilize my cultivation base at the bottom of this valley." The Heavenly Dao Cliff swept a glance at Yun Chujio and said with disdain, "Forget it. You speak so nicely. Aren't you still at the first level of the Lingxian realm? Where did you break through? Do you think I am blind?" Yun Chujio was also trying to show off. The spiritual power in her body began to surge. The second level of the Lingxian realm, the third level of the Lingxian realm. It stopped growing until the seventh level of the Lingxian realm. Tian Dao Ya's mind was blank. He had been struck by a few lightning bolts and he had advanced to the sixth level? God, how could he let others play with this? This was too abnormal. "Little Tianin, actually, I was joking with you. I was originally at the fourth level of the Lingxian realm. This time, I only advanced to the third level." "Only 3 levels? Only? Are you sure you weren't just showing off? Advancing by 3 levels all of a sudden, and you're still not satisfied? Do you know that you'll be struck by lightning if you do this?" Alright, this demon was originally struck by lightning. After a long while, Heavenly Dao Cliff finally said, "Then why was your spiritual power level at the first level of the Lingxian realm? Even if there was a spiritual weapon that could conceal the spiritual power level, it shouldn't be able to hide it from me." Yun Chujio didn't hide it and said with a smile, "I don't know what happened either. If I didn't wear this spirit-concealing ring, I wouldn't have any spiritual power fluctuations on me. If you don't believe me, take a look." As Yun Chujio said that, she took off the spirit-concealing ring. The Heavenly Dao Cliff was surprised to find that the little girl in front of him didn't have any spiritual power fluctuations at all. Heavenly Dao Cliff felt that he had opened his eyes. Then, he realized that the ugly bird and the Shao Moga spiritual power level did not seem to be right. "Forget it, The abnormal spiritual pet was also abnormal. Chapter 2261 was so interesting. Just as the heavenly Tao Cliff was thinking about it, he saw that Yun Chujia's spiritual power level had once again changed to the first layer of the Lingxian realm. Although this fellow wanted to show off, he was afraid that he would attract trouble, so he decided to find another opportunity to raise the level of his spiritual power. This time, he would not adjust it. The heavenly Tao Cliff thought that Yun Chujio did this to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger, and to trick people. It immediately reminded it of what had happened just now, and the anger in its heart suddenly rose. Stupid girl! Tell me, how do you account for the fact that you framed me just now? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. This heavenly Tao Cliff was intermittently crazy, right? They were just having a good chat just now. Why did they suddenly turn hostile? Little Tian, how did I frame you? Alright, I admit that I did ask you to help me a little, but why didn't I ask for help from others? That's because other than you, little Tian, who else in the immortal essence continent can resist the heavenly thunder? Tell me who else? The heavenly Tao Cliff was dumbfounded by Yun Chujia's questions. That's right, other than him, who else could be so awesome? Who else could fight against Wu Yun? Who else? Little Tian, I believe that you already have the answer, right? As the saying goes, the more capable a person is, the heavier the responsibility on their shoulders. No matter what, I'm still your friend, right? No matter what, I'm still a student of the Heaven Punisher Academy, right? As the guardian of the Heaven Punisher Academy, shouldn't you stand up and save me? The heavenly Tao Cliff suddenly felt that its image had become more imposing. Looking down at the weak little girl at the bottom of the valley, it felt that it was too narrow-minded. It didn't really matter if it helped carry a few bolts of lightning. After all, it didn't have any losses, right? Seeing that the heavenly Tao Cliff didn't say anything, Yun Chujio knew in her heart that the fish had already taken the bait. She said with a smile, Little Tian, besides, don't you think that fighting with Wu Yun is quite fun? Tell me, other than distributing the inheritances to the people of the Heaven Punisher Academy for so many years, what other fun do you have? Now that you think about what happened just now, don't you think it's very interesting? Wu Yun was frightened by your powerful ability and fled in panic. How interesting. Heaven's Path Cliff recalled what happened just now. That's right. That Wu Yun still thought that it was so great that his father wouldn't be able to torture it to death. In the end, when it fled, it looked like a stray dog. It was extremely enjoyable. Heaven's Path Cliff felt that the past hundreds of thousands of years seemed to be a patch of pale memories. Only being cheated by the smelly girl and fighting with Wu Yun were vivid colors. It seemed that these days had also become interesting. After Heaven Tao Cliff was taken away, his attitude immediately changed. Little girl, what you said still makes sense. That Wu Yun can't be compared to me. It's really too weak. I'm not bragging. Let alone splitting it for 10 hours, even if I let it split it for 10 days and 10 nights, it can't do anything to me. That's right, you're Heaven Tao Cliff. A single Wu Yun is not on the same level as you. You're just like the sun in the sky. Wu Yun is mostly just a small candle, and it's the kind of small wax head that's about to burn out. Yun Chujio said flatteringly with a smile. Tian Tao Cliff was in a good mood now. He found Yun Chujio pleasing to the eye. However, he said uneasily, Little girl, although this is quite pleasant, do you think Tian Tao will punish me? Little Tian, you are worrying too much. I have already scolded Tian Tao as an old bastard, but am I not still alive and kicking? Besides, when Tian Tao punishes people, it is nothing more than a lightning strike. What are you afraid of? Yun Chujio said while pouting. Chapter 2262. We will be friends from now on. The heavenly Tao Cliff felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. At the very most, they would just be struck by lightning. What else could they do? Thus, it had a rough idea of what was going on. Just as it was about to bring Yun Chujio up, it realized that many people had come over, so it didn't move for the time being. The people who had come were naturally Dean Gongsun and the others. Seeing that the dark clouds had dispersed and the sky had returned to normal, They had come to the Heavenly Dao Cliff to investigate the situation. When they arrived at the Heaven Dao Cliff, everything was as usual. They looked into the depths of the valley, but they couldn't see anything. Everyone looked at each other, wanting to test if the Heaven Dao Cliff had gained sentience. But how should they ask this question? In the end, it was Dean Gong's son who bowed respectfully and said, "I wonder if the Lord of the Heaven Dao Cliff can hear my question?" Heaven's Path Cliff cursed inwardly. "Damn it, I am not deaf, so of course I can hear you. However, I don't want to talk to these ants, so I am only willing to talk to the little lass." The crowd waited for a while, but when they saw that Heaven's Path Cliff had no reaction at all, one of the teachers said, "Dean, perhaps Heaven's Path Cliff has just gained sentience and doesn't know how to speak yet." Upon hearing this, Tian Dao Cliff became even angrier. "You don't know how to speak. Your entire family doesn't know how to speak." However, Dean Gong's son felt that what the instructor said made sense. He reckoned that Tian Dao would only know how to speak after a few years, and he couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. After waiting for a while more, seeing that the sun had already set, they could only take advantage of their excitement and return in disappointment. After everyone had disappeared, Tian Dao Cliff finally brought up a certain Jiao who was eating a meat bun at the bottom of the valley. Yun Chujiao mumbled as she ate, "Little Tian, when you have cultivated to a weapon spirit that can leave your body, I will bring you around to eat delicious food." Although the Heaven Dao Cliff was not greedy for these appetites, it was still quite happy when it heard Yun Chujia's words. It felt as if its life had come to life. "I won't be able to cultivate for a while. It's fine as long as you have time to talk to me. I can't be bothered with those little ants. Your words are more interesting." Yun Chujiao agreed with a smile. Although she initially wanted to use the mentality of the Tian Dao Cliff to fool it, this fellow was the most loyal. The Tian Dao Cliff had saved her life, so she naturally wouldn't be ungrateful. "Little Tian, we will be friends from now on. If you need my help, just let me know. I will do my best to help you." Yun Chujiao said seriously, "I don't need your help for the time being. You should go back quickly. Otherwise, you will be discovered." Although the Heavenly Dao Cliff was simple-minded. However, they could feel that Yun Chujiao meant what she said. They couldn't help but feel that the entire mountain was slightly red. Well, it was actually illuminated by the setting sun. Yun Chujiao nodded. When Dean Gong's son and the others came, she had already used the cleaning spell and changed into a new set of clothes. She checked again and found that there was nothing wrong, so she left the Heavenly Dao Cliff. It was dinner time now, so Yun Chujiao did not meet many people when she came down from the Heavenly Dao Cliff. However, after walking for a while, she met a few people. Those people did not care too much, thinking that Yun Chujiao came from another place. Yun Chujiao sent a message to Jinji to find out that they were in the second grade's day classroom. Only then did this guy remember that they were punished to clean the classroom. Although they had paid a handyman, they should at least put on a show on the first day. Therefore, she strolled to the second grade day classroom. Chapter 2263 Teasing Jinji was naturally full of questions when she saw Yun Chujiao. However, she was not too worried when she saw that Yun Chujia's expression was normal and she was not injured. She was prepared to ask more questions when she returned. The servant had almost cleaned up the classroom. He greeted Yun Chujiao when he saw her coming in. Yun Chujiao nodded politely and said something like, "Thank you for your hard work." This guy never bossed people around just because of their low status or low spiritual power. He was good to others, good to himself, good to others, and good to himself. After a while, the odd job workers cleaned the classroom thoroughly. After Yun Chujiao let the odd job workers leave, the three of them waited for a while before leaving the second grade day classroom. "You were in a hurry to come here. Haven't you had dinner yet?" Seeing that Jin Ji and Xue Wuji nodded, Yun Chujiao said with a smile, "I'm not full either. Let's go to my yard and have some barbecue." Xue Wuji and Jin Ji both loved to be lively, so they naturally agreed happily. The three of them arrived at Yun Chujia's yard. After setting up a bonfire, Jin Ji couldn't wait to ask Yun Chujiao about the incident. Yun Chujiao did not hide anything and told them everything. "Little Jiao, you are already at the 7th layer of the Ling Xian realm? Oh my god. In comparison, I am simply a piece of trash. Jinji said dejectedly. Shui Wuji was also slightly disappointed. His spiritual power was indeed too low. Seeing this, Yun Chujio told the two of them what Di Baiming had said. She pouted and said, "Your good days are coming. I am the stupid bird that flies first." Seeing Yun Chujio say this, Jin Ji quickly comforted Yun Chujio, afraid that she would be unhappy. In fact, the three of them were not jealous of each other's opportunities. They just wanted to become stronger, and wanted to have the ability to protect each other. Fortunately, the three of them had gone through a life and death test, so they would not think about some things, so they would not hold any grudges. By the way, Beauty Jinji, you helped me apply for leave. The teacher of the beast taming class didn't say anything, right? Jinji slapped her thigh. I almost forgot about this matter. Teacher Du of the beast taming class asked you to go see him after you recovered from your illness. I guess he thought you were pretending to be sick. That Teacher Du doesn't look as snobbish as Teacher Dong, but he is a very serious person. You have to be mentally prepared. Yun Chujio nodded her head indifferently. At most, she would be punished. Compared to leveling up and breaking through, this was simply not worth mentioning. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not seem to care, Jinji emphasized again. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Don't worry. They'll go and meet that Teacher Du after lunch tomorrow. Speaking of which, it's also fate. I said that my stomach hurts, so Teacher Du came. God is so cooperative with me, I'm embarrassed." Shui Wuji and Jinji. Little Jio, after you left, that Teacher Dong scolded you a lot. He'll probably make things difficult for you in the spiritual power class tomorrow morning. I have recorded the content of the lecture. You can listen to it later. If he asks you a question, you won't be embarrassed. Jinji handed the recording stone to Yun Chujio. Beauty Jinji, you are so thoughtful. If I were a man, I would definitely marry you. Yun Chujio said slyly. Although Jinji was cheerful, she could not stand Yun Chujio's shameless teasing. She glared at her and said, "Little Jio, you'd better stop. If your majesty hears this, he might punish you." Chapter 2264 was going to be a good show. Yun Chujio said indifferently, "The pretty boy has already been subdued by me. He doesn't even dare to say anything when I say so. How dare he deal with me? It's against him." The corner of Jinji's eyes twitched. "Little Jio, is what you said true?" "Of course it's true. It's more true than a pearl. The pretty boy is now a standard wife slave. He doesn't dare to refute my words." Yun Chujio said proudly. Your Majesty, why are you here?" Jinji looked at the door of the courtyard in surprise. Yun Chujio was immediately dumbfounded. "Beauty Jinji, what I said to you just now was just a joke. In fact, I'm the one who was taught a lesson. Hee, our family's matters are all decided by our Prince Charming." After Yun Chujio said that, she saw Shui Wuji and Jinji laughing unsteadily. She turned around and saw that there was no gigolo. It turned out that Jinji was lying to her. This fellow's face turned red. What the fuck, he had failed miserably. It was all the gigolo's fault. He had been caught a few times in the past, and it was a conditioned reflex. Fortunately, this fellow was thick-skinned enough to mediate the situation for himself. Go ahead and laugh. What's the big deal? Am I not afraid of gigolo? This is not fear, this is love. Do you understand? Jinji and Shui Wuji knew that this guy was actually shy, so they did not continue to ridicule her. After laughing for a while, they changed the topic. The three of them ate and chatted until it was time for Hai Shi to return to their respective residences. After Yun Chujio washed up, she lay on the bed and turned on the recording stone. After listening to Teacher Dong's spiritual power class, she fell asleep. The next day, when Yun Chujio and the other two entered the classroom, although no one dared to talk about it, many people's eyes were filled with schadenfreude. This Mo Fangchao was going to be unlucky. Teacher Dong was extremely angry yesterday. Today, he definitely wouldn't let her off easily. Also, Teacher Du's expression yesterday was very serious. He probably wouldn't let this Mo Fangchao off easily. There was going to be a good show to watch. After a while, it was time for class. Teacher Dong walked into the classroom with a gloomy face. Yun Chujio couldn't help but criticize him in her heart. This Teacher Dong always had a resentful look on his face. It really affected the appearance of Xingtian Academy. Teacher Dong's gaze fell on Yun Chujio. Seeing that she wasn't wearing a veil today, he naturally couldn't kick her out again. However, his eyes flashed as he thought of a legitimate way to punish Yun Chujio. Yesterday, I introduced the first step of cultivating the spirit energy phantom technique. Have you all memorized it? Everyone naturally agreed. Teacher Dong nodded in satisfaction. Since you've all memorized it, then I'll ask a question. If you can't answer it, then don't attend this class. Mo Fang Chao, you answer this question. Everyone's gaze was focused on Yun Chujio. Many of them were gloating. This Mo Fang Chao did not attend the class yesterday. It would be a miracle if she could answer it. Teacher Dong and everyone else had the same thought. This Mo Fang Chao would definitely not be able to answer it. They could just kick her out to prevent her from getting angry. Yun Chujio stood up and looked uneasy. Teacher Dong, I didn't attend class yesterday. Can you change to another student to ask a question? Teacher Dong sneered. You didn't attend class yesterday because you did it yourself. Since you can't answer it, get out. You don't have to listen to this class anymore. Shui Wuji and Jin Ji lowered their heads. They thought to themselves, this little pervert is up to something again. She never forgets it. It would be a miracle if she can't answer it. Chapter 2265. Apology. After Teacher Dong finished speaking, he saw that Yun Chujio didn't move. He raised his voice and said, "Didn't you hear what I said? It's fine if your aptitude isn't good, but your attitude in class isn't correct. Someone like you is simply a disgrace to the Sky Punisher Academy. Get out, quickly get out." Yun Chujio suddenly raised her head and stared coldly at Teacher Dong. Teacher Dong was startled by Yun Chujio's cold gaze and subconsciously took a step back. Then he shouted angrily out of embarrassment, "Impudent! What kind of attitude is this? Are you dissatisfied with this teacher's punishment? Teacher Dong, I didn't violate your so-called classroom discipline. What right do you have to kick me out? Besides, I entered the academy openly, and I didn't enter through the back door. What right do you have to say that I'm a disgrace to the Sky Punisher Academy? Do you think there's something wrong with the academy's admission process? Or do you think that the Heavenly Tao Cliff is blind, so they taught me 2 inheritances?" Yun Chujio stared into Teacher Dong's eyes and asked word by word. Teacher Dong's eyes flickered a few times. Unless the student violated the classroom discipline, only the teacher had the right to kick the student out of the classroom. He indeed didn't have the right to kick Yun Chujio out. However, the arrow was on the bowstring. So many eyes were watching. He could only bite the bullet and angrily say, "I don't care how you got in. If you can't answer my questions, then get out. You can sue me wherever you want." "What if I can answer? Do you want to apologize to me, Teacher Dong?" Yun Chujio said provocatively. Teacher Dong sneered. "Do you think I won't let you answer the question just because you said so? If you can answer this question, I will apologize to you. If you can't answer it, not only will you not attend today's spiritual power class, but you will also not attend any spiritual power class in the future." Everyone looked at Yun Chujio. They all had the same thought. This Mo Fang Chao was probably trying to scare Teacher Dong. They didn't expect that it would backfire. This time, they would see what she would do. She didn't even attend class yesterday. It would be a miracle if she could answer. She might as well go out obediently. This time, she wouldn't be able to attend any spiritual energy classes in the future. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and said clearly, "The spiritual energy phantom technique is the foundation of a high-level physical transformation technique. Only after mastering a high-level physical transformation technique can one advance in the cultivation of the spiritual energy phantom technique. The first step of cultivating the spirit power phantom technique is to divide the spirit power. That is to say, while using the high-level physical transformation technique, you must also divide a part of the spirit power to transform the auxiliary beast. Teacher Dong, is my answer correct?" When Yun Chujio said the first sentence, Teacher Dong's face changed. He knew that he had been tricked by this stupid girl. She clearly knew, but she deliberately pretended that she didn't know. It was to set him up and make him apologize. Damn it. Teacher Dong, as a teacher, you won't go back on your words, right? Yun Chujio asked with a smile. Teacher Dong's face flushed red. He wished that he could slap Yun Chujio to death with one palm. He gritted his teeth and said vaguely, "You answered correctly. I shouldn't have kicked you out just now. Sit down." Yun Chujio glanced at Teacher Dong with a faint smile. She did not continue to pester him. After she sat down, she looked at Teacher Dong calmly as if nothing had happened. Teacher Dong's expression was very ugly. He felt that all the students in the star class were laughing at him in their hearts. He forced himself to finish the class and left angrily. Chapter 2266, Grade 10 Alchemist. Yun Chujio had a whole new level of respect for this Teacher Dong. She was so angry that she almost wanted to slap him. He was actually able to finish his lecture. If he wasn't too snobbish, he could be considered a pretty good teacher. The second lesson was alchemy. Because of the experience from the Tao Talisman lesson, Yun Chujio had already mentally prepared herself. She reckoned that this alchemy lesson was also a pile of theoretical foundations. As expected, Instructor Jean, who was teaching the alchemy class, said the same thing as Instructor Liu, who was teaching the talisman class. It was basically saying that they would wait until the second grade to officially choose the alchemy class to teach the specific alchemy methods. The first grade only roughly explained some of the characteristics of the pills, their tastes, and so on. Although Yun Chujio was a little disappointed, she still listened to Instructor Jean's explanation very seriously. Sharpening a knife did not delay chopping wood. It was also good to learn some theoretical knowledge. Yun Chujio and the other two were now famous people in Xingtian Academy. Naturally, Teacher Jean had heard of them. Seeing that the three of them were listening to the lecture very seriously, he thought to himself, this rumor is indeed not believable. These three children seem to be pretty good. During the lecture, Teacher Jean also asked Yun Chujio a question. Seeing that Yun Chujio's answer was very exquisite, he asked in surprise, "Mo Fangchao, have you studied alchemy before? What level are you currently an alchemist?" Yun Chujio recalled that she had once told the Great Elder that she had yet to learn how to refine a level 11 adversity pill. The Great Elder would probably tell Mo Fangbing. Therefore, she said, "I am a level 10 alchemist. Currently, I am practicing the refinement of a level 11 pill." What? A level 10 alchemist? Teacher Jean suddenly raised his voice. She was already a level 10 alchemist at such a young age? This aptitude could be said to be quite good. The students of the star class were also somewhat surprised. They didn't expect that this Mo Fang grass actually had the specialty of alchemy. Although a grade 10 alchemist could at most be considered average, she was still young, so her alchemy aptitude could be considered quite good. Of course, there were also some people who felt that Yun Chujio was boasting. With just a trash from a low-grade continent like her, how could she be able to refine a grade 10 pill? She was definitely lying. Teacher Jean was also somewhat skeptical. However, he was much more cultured than Teacher Dong. Although he had some doubts in his heart, he didn't reveal it. He even praised Yun Chujio a few times. In any case, whether or not this Mo Fangchao was a grade 10 alchemist would be revealed sooner or later. However, during the next question, Teacher Jean intentionally asked Yun Chujio twice. Each time, Yun Chujio's answers were not only accurate, but she also had her own opinions. Instructor Jean was increasingly convinced that this Mo Fangchao was not lying and that she had quite the talent to refine pills. Yun Chujio had revealed a little bit of her edge, so she naturally had a motive. She had promised the Great Elder to help her find a level 27 transformation life creation pill. If she wanted to obtain the pill, there were only two ways. One was for her to refine it herself, and the other was for someone else to help her refine it. Compared to finding someone to help her, she was more inclined to refine it herself. If she followed the normal curriculum of Xingtian Academy, it would probably take a long time before she could improve her pill refinement level. Therefore, she wanted to attract Teacher Jean's attention and then think of a way to eat a small meal to quickly improve her pill refinement level. Yun Chujia's strategy was obviously successful. In the first class, Teacher Jean had a good impression of Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio believed that she would definitely become Teacher Jean's favorite disciple in the future. After the lesson, Yun Chujio and the other two went to the cafeteria to have lunch. "Little Gio, don't forget to look for Teacher Du," Jinji reminded her. "I'll remember it. After I wake up and take a nap, I'll go see Teacher Du." Yun Chujio put down her bowl and chopsticks and stretched. Jinji glared at Yun Chujio. "Why are you taking a nap? Go after lunch. Otherwise, Teacher Du will be even angrier." "All right, I'll listen to you, Beauty Jinji. In fact, Teacher Du might also take a nap." Yun Chujio pouted and said. After lunch, Jinji and Shui Wuji returned to the dormitory, while Yun Chujio went to the Spirit Beast Garden to see Teacher Du. The Spirit Beast Garden was naturally not built in the central area of the academy. Otherwise, how could it stand the noise and smell? Therefore, the Spirit Beast Garden was located in the northwest corner of Xingtian Academy. Yun Chujio strolled to the Spirit Beast Garden. She explained the purpose of her visit to the handyman who was guarding the Spirit Beast Garden. After the handyman sent a message to Teacher Du, Yun Chujio was allowed to enter the Spirit Beast Garden. This student, Teacher Du, is in the Spirit Insect area. If you walk along this road, you will be able to see the sign of the Spirit Insect area in less than an hour, said the handyman. Yun Chujio nodded and thanked him. Then she strolled slowly as she strolled. The Spirit Beast Garden occupied a large area. There were many beast houses around the Bluestone Road. Those spirit beasts were all locked inside by the array. To put it bluntly, spirit beasts were demonic beasts that had been trained. They lacked a bit of wildness and were more docile. The spirit beasts in these beast houses were very calm. They should eat and play. It was somewhat similar to the zoo in her previous life. Yun Chujio had only read about many of the spirit beasts here in books, so this fellow would walk and read while stopping occasionally to take a closer look. Those spirit beasts were used to being looked at by people, so they didn't have any reaction. After the beast area was the bird area. Yun Chujio rarely had the opportunity to see spirit beasts, so she looked even more carefully. When she saw some spirit beast eggs, this fellow couldn't help but wipe his saliva. It had been a long time since he had eaten steamed egg custard. No matter what, he had to go to the canteen to order a night of steamed egg custard to eat. It was supposed to take an hour, but this guy had walked for 2 hours before he reached the spirit insect area. "Teacher Du? Teacher Du? Are you there?" Yun Chujio did not see anyone, so she pulled her neck and shouted. "Noisy! Quickly shut up! What if you scare the larvae?" As she spoke, a square-faced old man walked out from a beast house. The old man's expression was slightly displeased. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with Yun Chujio's behavior. Yun Chujio touched her nose and felt that she was in the wrong. She quickly said, "Teacher Du, I was wrong. I will definitely pay attention next time. Are the larvae of the spiritual insects very timid?" Teacher Du saw that Yun Chujio's attitude of admitting her mistake was not bad. His expression softened a little. They are divided into different species. Some of the larvae of the spiritual insects are very timid, but some of the larvae are not a hindrance. For example, the larvae of the 3-diet herbivorous ants are very timid, while the larvae of the 3-colored butterfly are very courageous. From this encounter, Yun Chujio could basically judge Teacher Du's character. He was a rigid learning addict. Needless to say, he was rigid. One could tell from his facial features that he didn't have a smile on his face. Other people would stay in their own courtyards without classes, but this one stayed in the Spirit Beast Garden. Moreover, when he talked about spirit beasts, his eyes lit up. He was simply obsessed with spirit beasts. "Teacher Du, spirit beasts are very popular among everyone. Can the attack power of these spirit insects compare to theirs?" The best way to quickly close the distance between him and the learning addict was naturally to discuss academic issues. Sure enough, when Teacher Du heard Yun Chujio's question, he started to talk non-stop. Although the individual attack power of the spirit insects is not very strong, the spirit insects live in groups. If one can't do it, there will be hundreds or thousands of them. It's just that the spirit insects are not easy to control, so very few people raise them. At first, Yun Chujio was still standing and listening respectfully. Later, she saw that Teacher Du was collecting a lot of information. From the attack power of the spiritual insects to the species of the spiritual insects, and then to the characteristics of the population of the spiritual insects, it seemed that he meant it would probably not be able to stop for a few hours. Yun Chujio simply took out 2 chairs and sat on one by herself. She let Teacher Du sit on one and continued listening to Teacher Du's long story. Although what Teacher Du said was no longer Yun Chujio's question, Yun Chujio still listened with great interest. Many of what Teacher Du said was the first time she heard it, so she treated it as learning. Just as Teacher Du was talking nonstop, a handyman walked over. Teacher Du, it's time to cut the honey. Please drive away the red-eyed poisonous tail bees. Teacher Du realized that he had been talking for 2 hours, and his face was a little embarrassed. Yun Chujio naturally put away the 2 chairs and said sincerely, "Thank you for your explanation, Teacher Du. I've learned a lot today." "Well, if you have something to do first, I'll just wait by the side." Although Teacher Du's impression of Yun Chujio had changed, he felt that he should still scold her, so he said, "Come with me to the beehive first. We'll talk about your leave later." Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. This Teacher Du was really inflexible. He could have just asked her to go back, but he still had to ask her about it. Yun Chujio had no choice but to follow Teacher Du and the servant to the beehive. When they reached the place, Yun Chujio could not help but be surprised. She thought that the beehive was just a beast house, but she did not expect that the so-called beehive was a large garden. The garden was planted with flowering plants and trees, and the flowering period was different. This way, the red-eyed venomous tail bees could collect honey at any time. "You guys wait outside first. After I drive the red-eyed venomous tail bees into the array, you guys can go in," Teacher Du said seriously. After Teacher Du finished speaking, he took out the jade token to open the beehive and walked in. The scarlet-eyed venomous-tailed bees were extremely ferocious. When they saw Teacher Du enter, they hummed and attacked Teacher Du. After Teacher Du set up the spiritual energy barrier, he spent a lot of effort to drive the bees into an array formation. After Teacher Du set up the array formation, he let Yun Chujio and the handyman enter. The handyman went to the beehive and started to get the honey. Yun Chujio sniffed. "Oh my, the honey made by the scarlet-eyed venomous tail bee smells good. I wonder what it tastes like." The servant rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Teacher Du, is the honey of the scarlet-eyed venomous tail bee poisonous? What effect does it have?" Although the scarlet-eyed venomous tail bee has poisonous needles, its honey is not poisonous. Not only is it not poisonous, but it is also a rare high-level ingredient. The Academy harvests the honey regularly to serve the distinguished guests. Yun Chujio nodded and said shamelessly, "Teacher Du, is this honey really as good as you said? Can I try it? I just want to taste a little bit." Teacher Du was so angry that he was amused, but he still agreed. "Get yourself a small piece of the beehive and try it." Hearing Teacher Du's words, Yun Chujio's image of Teacher Du suddenly became high and mighty in her heart. So what if he was old-fashioned? At least he had a good heart. Yun Chujio could not wait to jump to the side of the handyman. The beehive was very large, and the handyman was carefully cutting off the outer part of the beehive. Then, he was stunned to find that the little girl took out a large kitchen knife and began to cut the beehive that had the most honey. The handyman didn't know what was going on. He thought it was Teacher Du's instructions, so he was stunned for a moment before continuing his work. Teacher Du went to the other side of the garden to check on a spirit plant that was about to bloom. That spirit plant was quite a distance away from the hive, so Teacher Du didn't notice this guy's shameless behavior at all. Teacher Du did not notice it, but it did not mean that the queen bee in the beehive did not notice it. The queen bee was mainly to take care of the larvae, so under normal circumstances, she would not care if some of the edge of the beehive was cut off. The remaining nectar was enough for it to raise its offspring. Therefore, every time the handyman took the beehive, he would cut off the edge of the beehive, and the queen bee would turn a blind eye to it. However, the queen bee found that Yun Chujio did not follow the rules and was cutting the beehive that had the most honey. It was anxious. After the queen bee turned her fat body around, the poisonous needle on her tail quickly stabbed at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was busy cutting, but she did not expect that there was a queen bee hidden inside and was stabbed by the poisonous needle. The servant screamed in fear. He threw the tools he used to cut the honey on the ground and went to find Teacher Du. The red-eyed poisonous tail bee was very poisonous, and the queen bee was even more poisonous. If she couldn't take the antidote immediately after being poisoned, she would die in less than 15 minutes. Yun Chujio frowned. The poisonous needle of the queen bee was as thick as a little finger. A bloody hole appeared on Yun Chujio's arm and blood started to ooze out. Damn it! I just got some honey. Do you have to be so cruel? Get out here. Yun Chujio was so angry that she pulled the bee queen's poisonous needle out of the beehive. The poisonous needle was stopped. The bee queen wanted to use the needle on her mouth to stab Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio picked up the kitchen knife and cut the needle off the bee queen's mouth. The queen bee was really at her wit's end. She resigned herself to her fate and did not move. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. Damn it, since she had already paid the price of blood, she naturally could not let it go so easily. Therefore, this guy directly forced the queen bee to establish a temporary contract with her. Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of Teacher Du running over. She blinked her eyes and stuffed the queen bee into the beehive. Then, she put the queen bee's broken stinger into her storage ring. The bee queen took out another pill to stop the bleeding and swallowed it. Then, she picked up the big kitchen knife and continued to chop the beehive. The bee queen dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. She originally thought that a poisonous needle would be enough to poison this greedy little girl to death. Who would have thought that not only was she not poisoned to death, but she even forced her to establish a temporary contract. She was really unlucky. As for the sharp beak that was cut off by Yun Chujio, it was not a big deal. It would grow back in 10 days to half a month. When Teacher Du heard the report from the servant, his head buzzed. The scarlet-eyed venomous tail bee queen was extremely poisonous. If he delayed the time to take the antidote, the little girl's life would be over. Therefore, he rushed over with all his might. In the end, he saw that Yun Chujio was not only fine, but she was also hacking at the beehive. Mo Fangchao, you are fine? Yun Chujio stretched out her right arm. The damn queen bee stabbed me once, but it still has a conscience and did not use poison. Otherwise, I would be finished. Teacher Du was stunned. He saw that there was indeed a wound on Yun Chujio's right arm, but it had already begun to scab. It was likely that she had taken a good hemostatic pill. However, the queen bee did not use poison? How was this possible? While Teacher Du was in a daze, Yun Chujio finally cut off the beehive as she wished. She put it into her storage ring naturally and continued to cut the beehive. The servant ran over while panting. He was also stunned when he saw that Yun Chujio was safe and sound. This little girl was really lucky. How could she be safe and sound? Teacher Du finally came back to his senses. When he saw that Yun Chujio was still persistently cutting the beehive, he angrily said, "Stop. Didn't you already cut off a piece of it?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She said with a grievance, "Teacher Du, I'm cutting it for you. You've worked hard to take care of the beehive. It's only right for you to taste some honey. Moreover, you can also check if there are any changes in the quality of the honey." Teacher Du choked. Although he didn't agree with her behavior, he was still a little touched. He softened his tone and said, "There's no need to cut such a big piece to check the quality of the honey. Besides, it's okay to cut the edge of the hive. If you cut the hive inside, the queen will be angry. Be careful that it doesn't sting you again, and then you'll have to use poison." Yun Chujio said with a smile, "I have already made an agreement with the queen bee. It stung me once and felt very guilty, so it won't mind if I cut down 2 beehives. Queen bee, tell me, do you not mind at all? If you agree, just scream." Unlike the bees in the secular world, the red-eyed venomous-tailed bees could make a sound. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the queen bee reluctantly cried out. Teacher Du and the servant could not help but click their tongues in wonder. The queen bee actually agreed to chop the beehive inside? This was too unbelievable. One had to know that the part that Yun Chujio chopped was the part with the most honey, and the queen bee usually protected it very tightly. Previously, a servant accidentally cut a little bit and was stabbed by the queen bee with a poisonous needle. Fortunately, the rescue was timely, and he managed to save his life. While the two of them were in a daze, Yun Chujio had already chopped off a large piece of the beehive. She broke off a piece and began to chew on it. It was not in vain for her to pay the price of blood. The taste was indeed excellent. The corner of Teacher Du's eyes twitched. This little girl was good in every way, but she was too greedy. Teacher Du, you have a taste too. The taste of this honey is really good. Yun Chujio handed the beehive in her hand to Teacher Du. Teacher Du shook his head. Keep it for yourself. No matter what, it was my negligence that caused you to be injured. This beehive will be your compensation. Su Dong, don't tell anyone about what happened today, understand? The handyman named Su Dong had received Teacher Du's favor, so he naturally agreed without hesitation. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. After putting the beehive into her storage ring, she said with a smile, Uncle Su, I was naughty today and caused you to be frightened. Take this little spirit stone as a token of my appreciation. As Yun Chujio said that, she passed the 5,000 high-grade spirit stones to the servant. The servant was shocked. This was too much. Uncle Su, don't decline. Only when you accept these spirit stones will I feel slightly better. Yun Chujio said with a smile. The servant naturally understood that this was hush money. Seeing that Teacher Du didn't say anything, he thanked him and accepted the spirit stones. After cutting off a sufficient number of beehives, the handyman bade farewell and left. Teacher Du's expression immediately darkened, and he said unhappily, Mo Fong Chow, there was a handyman present just now, so I can't say much. Do you know your mistake? Yun Chujio was a little regretful. It was said that birds die for food. If she died because of greed, it would be a laughingstock. She felt that her spiritual power was much higher than that of the scarlet-eyed venomous-tail wasp. That was why she was willing to reap the honey. I know my mistake. I shouldn't have been greedy, I shouldn't have cut off such a large piece of the beehive, and I shouldn't have established a temporary contract with the queen bee. I was wrong, I was so wrong. What? Say that again. You said that you established a temporary contract with the queen bee? Teacher Du shouted in disbelief. Yes, yes. Yun Chujio was a little dumbfounded. The reason why she confessed was firstly because she felt that Teacher Du was a good person, and he even said that it was his responsibility that she was injured, and he also told the odd job workers not to talk about it. Secondly, she felt that this scarlet-eyed venomous-tailed bee queen was only a 33rd tier spiritual insect, so establishing a temporary contract was not a big deal. Teacher Du was obviously still in disbelief. Since you said that you established a spirit stone contract with the bee queen, let it come out of the hive. Yun Chujio had no choice but to order the bee queen to climb out of the hive. The bee queen felt that she was really out of luck today. Not only did she lose 2 large beehives, but her sharp beak was also chopped off by someone. Most importantly, she was actually temporarily contracted by this wretched girl. Now, he had to go out and lose face. A bee queen without a sharp beak. Sob, sob, how was he going to survive in the future? Teacher Du was stunned when he saw the bee queen climbing out of the beehives. It really came out? But why was the bee queen's sharp beak gone? Could it have been broken by him? Teacher Du, do you believe me now? I have established a temporary contract with the queen bee. In the future, when Su Dong comes to fetch the honey, you don't have to do anything. I will ask the queen bee to drive those worker bees to the array area, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Teacher Du looked at Yun Chujio, then looked at the queen bee without a sharp beak, and said in a low voice, Mo Fong Chow, do you know why I was surprised when I heard that you had established a temporary contract with the queen bee? Yun Chujio shook her head. I don't know. Isn't this bee queen just a level 33 spiritual insect? What's so great about it? First, level 33 is equivalent to the 4th to 5th level of the spiritual profound realm for human cultivators. Beast taming techniques can only be used to control beasts that are lower in level than your spiritual power. You are only at the 1st level of the spiritual profound realm, but you can actually control beasts that are higher in level than your spiritual power. This is simply unbelievable. Yun Chujio secretly cursed in her heart. She was really smart all her life, but she actually forgot this point in a moment of confusion. However, it didn't matter. She was already able to control beasts that were higher in level than her own spiritual power. The second point is also the most important point. Spiritual insects are different from spiritual beasts and spiritual birds. No cultivator has ever been able to establish a contract with an adult or larva. Those who raise spiritual insects can only establish a contract with the eggs of the insects. After the eggs hatch, they will become their spiritual pets. This is the reason why there are very few people raising the spiritual insects. After all, it takes too long to wait for the eggs to mature. Yun Chujio touched her nose. Teacher Du, but I really established a temporary contract with the queen bee. What's going on? Teacher Du was also at a loss. Maybe it's because you have a heavenly thunder spirit root. This is not a trivial matter. Don't mention it to others. Yun Chujio nodded. It wasn't like there weren't any good people in Xingtian Academy. This teacher Du wasn't bad. Although he was a rigid person, he didn't have any ill intentions. Cough cough, this fellow wouldn't admit it. The reason why she had a good impression of Teacher Du was because Teacher Du had given her 2 beehives. Teacher Du wanted to verify it again, so he released the worker bees from the array. Anyway, with him protecting Yun Chujio, he wouldn't hurt her. However, it was clear that he was thinking too much. With the queen bee's order, the worker bees were extremely obedient. They even formed a picture of a peach heart in the air. Hee Teacher Du, how is it? These worker bees are quite obedient, Yun Chujio said proudly. The corner of Teacher Du's eyes twitched violently. The scarlet-eyed poisonous tail wasp was a famous poisonous insect. Now, it was used to make the little girl happy. It was really a waste of natural resources. After the 2 of them left the beehive, Teacher Du remembered the original purpose of looking for Yun Chujio. Why did you skip class yesterday? Don't say any excuse of having diarrhea. Tell the truth. Teacher Du asked seriously. Yun Chujio naturally wouldn't say that she was struck by lightning. She pouted and said, yesterday my face had a layer of rash, so I wore a veil to cover my ugliness. I didn't expect that during the spiritual power class, Teacher Dong would insist that I take off my veil. If I didn't take it off, he would tell me to get out of the classroom and even scold me for being useless. I was so angry that I ran out of the classroom. Originally, I planned to go back to class for the 2nd period. However, Wu Yun suddenly appeared in the sky. I was afraid that he would come and strike me. What if I implicate the other students? I thought for a moment and returned to my dormitory. After all, my dormitory was a separate courtyard. Even if I was struck, I wouldn't implicate others. Teacher Du, I really didn't mean to skip class. I guarantee that there won't be a next time. Teacher Du nodded his head in gratification. You little lass, although you are a little gluttonous and your personality is a little off, you are very kind. Forget it this time. Next time, even if you have to dodge the heavenly lightning, you have to tell the teacher in charge to avoid misunderstanding. Yun Chujio nodded her head and secretly gave herself 32 likes. Full marks. In the evening, Yun Chujio took out the honey and gave it to Xue Wuji and Jin Ji to eat. I exchanged it with fresh blood. You guys should try it. Xue Wuji and Jin Ji were stunned. What's going on? Yun Chujio told them everything. Then she said, in the future, you'll have an excuse to go to the beehives. They'll make sure that you can eat fresh honey at any time. When I get close to Old Du, they'll see if there are any other good things to bring back for you. Although she was injured today, the harvest was still pretty good. There was no need to talk about the honey. After making friends with Teacher Du, we could start a special class in the future. The most important thing was that no one else could contract an adult or a larva, but I could. Maybe it would be useful in the future. Not to mention other things, raising a nest of spiritual bees to collect honey would be very good. Yun Chujio was talking. Shui Wuji said gloomily, "Little sister Jio, I always thought that you were the smartest, but what did you do today? Just for a mouthful of food, you got a hole in your arm. If something really happened to you, do you think it was worth it? If you really want to eat this bullshit honey, let's think of another way. Do you have to put yourself in danger? You're lucky. It's just a minor injury. What if that bee queen pricked your eye? Even if you're not afraid of poison, can you protect your eye? Little sister Jio, I think you've been too complacent recently. Jinji, let's go. She can keep the honey for herself." Jinji's expression did not look good either. She glared at Yunchu Jio and said, "Little Jio, you're really too smart for your own good. Don't you know that there are queen bee and larvae in the beehive? You're lucky this time. It's just that the queen bee came out to attack. What if those larvae attacked you together when you dragged the queen bee? Will you be able to escape unscathed?" Shui Wuji is right. It's because you've been gaining the upper hand in every aspect recently that you've become complacent. Think about it yourself. When Yun Chujio heard Shui Wuji and Jinji's words, she was stunned at first, then explained anxiously, "I am not." "You're not what? Your arm is not caused by gluttony? Don't you think that you're not afraid of anything as long as you're smart? Little sister Jio, you're a smart person. You should reflect on yourself." After Shui Wuji said these words coldly, he ignored Yun Chujio and left. Jinji snorted coldly and left without looking back. Yun Chujio opened her mouth and said, you guys, sigh, etchi. Forget it if you don't want to eat. They'll eat it myself." This guy broke a piece of beehive and started chewing. He put it down after a few bites. He felt that it was tasteless, so he put the beehive into his storage ring. After washing up, she was not in the mood to cultivate. She lay on the bed in a daze. She knew that Shui Wuji and Jinji were doing this for her own good. They were afraid that she would be in danger because of her gluttony. She understood and would remember their kindness. But why did she still feel wronged? Why was her nose a little sore? Yes, she was gluttonous, but did they know why she had a special liking for food? Could they understand the fear of not having a next meal? Could they understand the fear of being beaten half to death by an old beggar just for half a steamed bun? In her previous life, ever since she had memories, the feeling of being bone deep in her marrow was hunger. Every day she thought about it to fill her stomach. If those beggars did not use her to win people's sympathy, she would have starved to death long ago. In order to eat and survive, she learned from all kinds of people to observe people's expressions and learn to flatter them. Others said that she was mentally strong and thick-skinned enough. Compared to her life, what was the point of being scolded or kicked? Fortunately, she was later chosen by the Secret Service through small means. That was how she escaped from the days of hunger. However, she also developed the habit of storing food and gluttonous eating. Her refrigerator was always full of food. Even her bedroom was full of food. Every time she went to a place, she would taste all the local delicacies. She would take a few hours' flight to eat authentic delicacies. It seemed that this was the only way for her to truly feel that she did not have to starve anymore. She would no longer be enveloped by those nightmares. Yun Chujio buried her head under the blanket and started to cry silently. She also wanted to live a noble and elegant life. She also wanted to live like snow on a high mountain. However, as an abandoned baby who was thrown into a beggar's nest and a person who lived for the sake of living, only food could give her the greatest sense of security. The four people in the spiritual beast bag saw Yun Chujio crying so sadly and looked at each other. In the end, it was Xiao Hanio who said weakly, "Master, the past is the past. Didn't you say that people should look forward? You won't go hungry again in the future. At the very least, there's still the great void mystic realm." "I know. In fact, I haven't gone hungry since I became a special agent. It's mostly because of psychological reasons. You don't have to worry about me. I'll think about it carefully." Master, gluttony isn't a problem. As long as you don't take risks for gluttony, so be it. Anyway, the gigolo can support you, said Xiao Hanyo. It would never admit that it said that because it was a glutton. Yun Chujio agreed and lay on the bed, recalling the recent events. Although she didn't want to admit it, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji were right. After she entered the Xingtian Academy, she seemed to have fallen into the same old habit again. Yun Chujio sighed. She had indeed gone overboard. Especially after she had advanced 3 levels, she felt that her current spiritual power was considered outstanding in the 1st grade. Moreover, she could refine pills and talismans, not to mention that she had eloquence that could talk the dead alive. She felt that the 1st grade could no longer contain her. She felt that those who opposed her were all scum and could be dealt with a little trick. Wake up, Yun Chujio. Wu Ji's head and beauty Jin Ji were right. You are nothing now. You are just a weak chicken. Think about the assassin you met outside the MO residence. You don't even have the strength to fight back. What if that person's master sends someone to kill you again? And that Yi Bingyu, will she let it go? Forget about all this. Mother's reason for being expelled from the Yi family back then and the cause of her death are all waiting for you to investigate. Furthermore, even though the matter with the Divine Devil Hall has temporarily come to an end, who knows when it will come back? That Su Yenran will definitely come looking for you to take revenge. Also, Big Brother Mermaid must have been trapped by a very powerful enemy and is still waiting for you to save him. Not to mention, the pretty boy situation is even more dangerous. You're so weak now, and there's nothing you can do to help, but you actually floated up. You're simply an idiot. The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more she felt that she had forgotten herself. She was simply a little bastard. This fellow did not sleep well the whole night. Even if she did sleep, she would either dream about her experience of starving in her previous life or that everyone was accusing her of being lazy. The next day, she got up with 2 dark circles under her eyes. She waited and waited, but Jin Ji did not come looking for her to go to the classroom. This fellow left the courtyard and went to Jin Ji's courtyard next door. He shouted a few times, but no one responded. Shui Wuji's courtyard was also completely silent. This fellow was not stupid. He knew that Shui Wuji and Jin Ji had already left and dumped her. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. It seemed that these 2 people were determined to teach her a lesson. She had no choice but to walk towards the classroom in loneliness. When she reached the classroom, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji turned a blind eye to her as if they did not know her. Yun Chujio and the other 2 had always been the focus of the star class. When everyone saw Yun Chujio being isolated, they could not help but gloat. They did not expect them to fight among themselves. They deserved it. After 2 classes, Yun Chujio was about to ask Jin Ji and the others if they wanted to go to the canteen for a meal. She did not expect the 2 of them to ignore her and directly leave the classroom. Yun Chujio could only follow behind the 2 of them with her head drooping, looking like she had nothing to live for. Jin Ji glanced at them from the corner of her eyes and felt a little sad. Shui Wuji said in a low voice, "Don't you know? Little sister Jio is good at pretending to be pitiful. This time, we must teach her a lesson. Otherwise, she might not be able to make trouble." Jin Ji nodded and hardened her heart to ignore Yun Chujio. During the meal, although Yun Chujio shamelessly sat with Jin Ji and the others, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji ignored her. After supervising the handyman to clean up the 2nd grade day classroom, Shui Wuji and Jin Ji quickly left without waiting for Yun Chujio, who had locked the door behind them. Yun Chujio stomped her feet. Forget it, there was no way a monk could run away from the temple. She would find them to apologize when she returned to the dormitory. Yun Chujio was not too anxious after thinking about this and strolled towards the dormitory. "Stop. Mo Fangchao, it's time for us to settle the score today." Yun Chujio looked up and saw a group of people standing in front of her. The one who spoke was Zhu Jingtai, whom she had beaten up previously. Yun Chujio was not in a good mood, so she was not in the mood to deal with him. she said coldly. A good dog doesn't get in the way. Get out of the way. Stupid girl, didn't you just bully me and my brother last time that we didn't have any points? You act arrogantly, so naturally, someone will help us seek justice. Who's this? Do you know him? Yun Chujio looked at the man that Zhu Jingtai was pointing at. The man was wearing the clothes of a second-year student. He looked arrogant and looked at Yun Chujio with disdain. I don't know him, and am not interested in knowing him. Get out of the way, or I won't be polite. Not polite? Aren't you just relying on your points? To tell you the truth, He Hongchuan, Senior He, is my brother's good friend. He has 500 points, so it's more than enough to beat you up. If you don't want to be beaten up, immediately kneel down and apologize to my brother and me. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending. Zhu Jingtai said arrogantly. Yun Chujio looked at He Hongchuan and said indifferently, Senior He, what do you say? He Hongchuan curled his lips. Little girl, don't be too arrogant. Jingtai is my good friend's younger brother. If you beat him up, it would be a loss of face for me. However, since you are a woman, as long as you kneel down and admit your mistake, I will raise my hand and spare you. What if I say no? Since you refuse to accept the hard way, then I will teach you the rules of Xingtian Academy. All of you step back and hand her over to me. After He Hongchuan said that, he slapped Yun Chujio in the chest. He clearly had bad intentions. Seeing Yun Chujio's beautiful appearance, he had a devious thought and wanted to take advantage of her. Yun Chujio's eyes deepened. She was already in a bad mood, so when He Hongchuan bumped into her, he would naturally not be polite. Although she could not see through He Hongchuan's cultivation level as a second-year student, even if he was in the day class, he was only at the first level of the spiritual void tier. As long as she seized the opportunity, she would still have a way to win. Yun Chujio jumped to the side and dodged He Hongchuan's attack. She also kicked He Hongchuan's abdomen. He Hongchuan naturally would not sit still and wait for his death. He dodged to the side and the two of them tangled together. The two of them did not use their spiritual power because once they used their spiritual power to attack, it would not be a matter of 200 points. It would be at least 400 points and they might even be directly expelled. The commotion on this side quickly attracted many students to come over and watch. When they saw the two parties involved, they all had the same thought in their hearts. Fuck, it was this ink-fragrant grass again. TSK, this Mo Fangchao is really a seed that can cause trouble. It's only been a few days, why is there a war again? Didn't you see that Zhu Jingtai? He's probably here to seek revenge from his backer. I know that He Hongchuan. He's a student from the second grade's day class. I think he found a spirit herb that the spirit herb garden needed during the last trial, and the academy rewarded him with a lot of points. No wonder he dared to fight with that Mo Fangbing. He has nothing to fear. This time, Mo Fangbing has kicked an iron plate. It's useless for her to use points to blackmail him. Zhai Shanshan and Shi Luoxia were also in the crowd. The two of them had already reconciled, and their faces were filled with schadenfreude. He Hongchuan's spiritual power was said to be at Lingshu first layer, while that Mo Fangbing was only at Lingxian first layer. She was just waiting to be beaten up. Mo Fangbing stood beside the two of them and hesitated for a moment, but she still took out her identity jade token to inform Jin Ji. Mo Fangbing, what are you doing? Don't meddle in other people's business, or Zhu Jingtai won't forgive you, Shi Luoxia said viciously. Mo Fangbing had no choice but to put away her identity jade token. She thought to herself, it's not that I don't want to save you, Mo Fangbing, it's just that I have no other choice. You better pray for yourself. At this time, Yun Chujio and He Hongchuan had been fighting for 15 minutes, but it was still difficult to determine the winner. The onlookers could not help but discuss, it doesn't make sense. Although both of them did not use their spiritual power, He Hongchuan's spiritual power level was much higher than Mo Fangkeo's, and his movement technique should be much faster than hers. Why did he not have the upper hand at all? I guess He Hongchuan didn't use his full strength. After all, he's a senior, and his opponent is a little girl. Forget it. Look at the veins on his forehead. He must have used his full strength. He's just not as skilled as her. Hearing the discussions of the crowd, He Hongchuan became more and more anxious. He originally thought that he would be able to take down this little girl in a few moves, then tease her a little and take advantage of her at the same time. He didn't expect her to be so difficult to deal with. What should he do? If they continued to be entangled like this, all the previous efforts of the law enforcement team's instructors would be wasted. At this moment, Yun Chujia's feet were unstable, and a flaw was revealed. He Hongchuan was overjoyed and immediately stretched out his leg to kick Yun Chujia's lower abdomen. The onlookers could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The lower abdomen was the most vulnerable part of the human body. If this kick landed, Mo Fangchao would definitely be seriously injured. Just when everyone thought that Yun Chujio would be seriously injured, they did not expect Yun Chujia's body to twist strangely and dodge He Hongchuan's kick. He Hongchuan's body could not control its balance due to the excessive force used. He could not help but lean forward. However, Yun Chujio turned behind him and gave him a fierce kick on the back. He Hongchuan was kicked more than 100 feet away. As soon as he got up, he was imprisoned by Yun Chujio. For a moment, everyone was unable to react. How did the situation turn around in such a short time? He Hongchuan, who was in the first layer of the spiritual void tier, was actually defeated by Mo Fangchao, who was in the first layer of the spiritual void tier. How was this possible? However, the truth was right in front of everyone's eyes. It was really unbelievable. If it were in the past, Yun Chujio would definitely extort some spirit stones from He Hongchuan and Zhu Jingtai. However, she was in a bad mood today, so she didn't have the mood to relax. Yun Chujio saw that there were people from the law enforcement team coming over. This guy covered it with his sleeve and grabbed the sharp beak of the red-eyed poisonous wasp that was cut off yesterday. He stabbed the wasp into He Hongchuan's heart and then jumped to the side. He Hongchuan cried out in pain. He jumped up and attacked Yun Chujio with his spiritual power. "Bitch! How dare you hurt me? I'll kill you! Help! Help! This lunatic is going to kill someone." Yun Chujio only dodged and did not fight back. The law enforcement team was already here, but He Hongchuan actually used his spiritual power to attack. He was simply courting death. Sure enough, the teachers of the law enforcement team quickly controlled He Hongchuan and asked him about what happened. Yun Chujio told them the whole story. "Teachers, I was completely defending myself. And as you have seen, He Hongchuan actually used spiritual power to attack. It is obvious that he wants to kill me. You have to help me, this weak little girl." The audience's eyes twitched. "Forget it. You are the most powerful one. You hit your teacher and your classmate. You are a female bandit. Teacher, don't listen to Mo Fangchao's nonsense. She stabbed my heart with a sharp weapon. Otherwise, I wouldn't have used my spiritual power to attack in a hurry." He Hongchuan knew that once the crime was proven, perhaps the 500 points would be gone. Yun Chujio had an innocent expression on her face. "I stabbed you? Heaven and earth, when did I stab you? If I stabbed you, I would at least have a weapon. Who saw me draw my sword?" The crowd shook their heads. They really didn't see Yun Chujio using a weapon. "It wasn't you. Could it be that I stabbed myself?" He Hongchuan pointed at his chest. Sure enough, his clothes were already dyed red with blood. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "Maybe you were trying to escape punishment, so you put on a bitter act. After all, using spiritual power to bully classmates requires severe punishment." He Hongchuan took out a hemostasis pill and was about to swallow it when he heard Yun Chujio's words. He almost choked to death on the pill. You're talking nonsense. You were the one who stabbed me. I saw it." The teacher of the law enforcement department could not tell who was lying at the moment. At this moment, Yun Chujio said indifferently, "To make a case, there must be evidence. Since no one saw me stab you and you can't provide the murder weapon, what right do you have to accuse me? Even if I stabbed you with a dagger, there shouldn't be no clues, right? Teachers, you can ask the students here if I'm telling the truth." The teachers from the law enforcement office asked everyone, and everyone shook their heads. Indeed, they did not see any murder weapon used by Mo Fangchao. She was right. Even if it was a dagger, there should be a cold light or a hilt. However, no one saw it. The teacher from the law enforcement department looked at He Hongchuan with an unfriendly gaze. It was entirely possible that in order to reduce the punishment, he had put on a show. Perhaps his heart was already injured, and in order to frame Mo Fangchao, he had broken it again. You guys go back first. We will report this matter to Teacher Pang and then deal with it, said a teacher from the law enforcement department. Yun Chujio didn't care. After all, even if it was an injury test, as long as she refused to admit it, there was no way to convict her. No matter how he was punished, He Hongchuan's crime was more serious than hers. After the teacher from the law enforcement department left, Yun Chujio didn't pay attention to He Hongchuan. Instead, she looked at Zhu Jingtai coldly. The second time. Again and again, but not again and again. If you provoke me again, I will kill you. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she walked away slowly. Zhu Jingtai felt a chill all over his body. He felt that Yun Chujio really had the intention to kill him just now. The way she looked at him was as if she was looking at a dead person. Yun Chujio went straight to the outside of Jinji's courtyard and shouted, "Beauty Jinji! Beauty Jinji! Come out quickly! I am being bullied! Ouch, my arm hurts!" Although Jinji knew that it was possible that Yun Chujio lied to her, she was still a little worried and walked out of the courtyard. The moment she came out, she was hugged by Yun Chujio. "Beauty Jinji, I was wrong. I will never be greedy and risk my life again. I will never forget myself again. I have learned my lesson. Please forgive me." Jinji glared at her. "Are you serious?" "Yes. I am more serious than a pearl. I will keep my word. Don't mention it. Zhu Jingtai found someone called He Hongchuan to stop me. If I wasn't smart, I would have been seriously injured." "What happened? Are you okay?" Jinji asked anxiously. Yun Chujio told her the whole story and successfully diverted Jinji's attention. After dealing with Jinji, Yun Chujio used the same trick to deal with Xue Wuji. This small incident was considered to be over. The next day, the law enforcement department announced the results of the punishment. Yun Chujio was acting in self-defense and did not deal with it. He Hongchuan bullied his classmate and used his spiritual power to attack. The plot was bad and 400 points were deducted. Although He Hongchuan was so angry that he wanted to bang his head against the wall, there was nothing he could do. It could be said that he hated Yun Chujio. In the following period of time, Yun Chujio's academy life was still relatively peaceful. Although Teacher Dong had found a few problems, they were all solved by Yun Chujio without any danger. Teacher Dong was most likely disheartened, so he simply ignored Yun Chujio and the other two. The other teachers were not bad, especially Teacher Jin, who taught alchemy, and Teacher Du, who controlled beasts. They were very satisfied with Yun Chujio's performance. In the blink of an eye, Yun Chujio had entered the school for half a month, and the next 3 days were a break. Yun Chujio had originally planned to stay in Xingtian Academy obediently for the next 3 days to avoid any danger when she went out. She did not expect that someone from the Yi family would come. "Miss Cousin, I am the steward of the Yi family. Although Miss Lan was removed from the list, you are still the blood of the Yi family. The old master wants to meet you." "Steward, what is your surname? Who is the old master that you call me?" Yun Chujio looked at the old man indifferently, as expected of a member of a first-class family. On the surface, there wasn't the slightest mistake. Everything was well-behaved and appropriate. "I am indebted to the old master's grace and have been bestowed with the surname Yi of my main family." The word Fui is a single word. The old master is Miss Lan's grandfather, which is also your great-grandfather. The old man replied respectfully. Yun Chujio nodded. "Housekeeper Fu, did the old master say anything? If I don't want to go, how are you going to deal with me?" This, the old master did not say. However, does the young miss not want to meet the relatives of the grandfather's family? Housekeeper Fu was shocked. This Mo Fangchao was really a little different from the others. If an ordinary person could have a relationship with a first-class family like the Yi family, wouldn't they be overjoyed? Judging from this person's meaning, It seemed that she didn't really want to go. Of course I want to meet him. But you also know that I only have 3 days of rest. I'm afraid that he will come and go in a hurry. Why don't I go to the Yi residence to visit the old master when I'm on a long vacation? Yun Chujio said faintly. Housekeeper Fu then realized that Yun Chujio had always been talking about the old master and had never addressed him as great-grandfather. Could it be that she really did not want to have any relationship with the Yi family? I understand what you mean, young miss. Then I won't disturb you anymore. I'll take my leave. Housekeeper Fu did not say anything else. He bowed respectfully and then left with his men. Yun Chujio looked at Housekeeper Fu's back and felt a wave of emotions in her heart. She felt that there would be more people from the Yi family. Although she did not know why the old master of the Yi family wanted to see her, the person who killed her was definitely not sent by the old master of the Yi family. Could it be that the person who wanted to kill her because the old master of the Yi family wanted to see her? Would the Yi family go or not? If she wanted to find out what happened to her mother, the Yi family definitely had to go. However, she did not have the ability to protect herself now. If she went, it would be equivalent to entering a dragon's den and a tiger's den. However, if she did not go, that old master Yi might change his mind. It would be even more difficult for her to enter the Yi family legally. Yun Chujio still had not come to a decision. Half a month later, Housekeeper Fu came again. Miss, the old master said that Miss Lan's courtyard had been empty all those years ago. You can stay there after you go there. Although Miss Lan is no longer here, you can still remember her, Housekeeper Fu said respectfully. Yun Chujio could not help but sneer in her heart. Did he think she was a fool? Housekeeper Fu, as far as I know, my mother was expelled from the family back then. Why would a expelled young lattice courtyard remain untouched? Yun Chujio asked faintly. This, Housekeeper Fu could not help but sweat profusely on his forehead. He did not expect that his lie would be exposed so quickly. He could only grit his teeth and say, Young lady, I was wrong. Although Miss Lan's courtyard has already been occupied, as long as you follow me back to the Yi family, the old master will get someone to restore the courtyard to its original state. I see. Speaking of which, I'm not considered the proper master of the Yi family. Housekeeper Fu, there's no need to be so nervous. Yun Chujio's tone was still indifferent. Although Housekeeper Fu knew in his heart that this young miss was only at the first layer of the Ling Xian realm and that the family was only a branch of a third-class family, for some reason he could see Yi Lan's shadow in her back then, he could not help but feel some fear in his heart. Housekeeper Fu thought of Yi Lan and could not help but sigh in his heart. Although Yi Lan was the daughter of a concubine of the Yi family, at that time, she was the chosen one of the eastern continent and the pride of the Yi family. Who would have thought that in the end she would actually be removed from the list? She had fallen to the western continent and lost her reputation. What a joke of fate! Seeing that Housekeeper Fu was slightly absent-minded, Yun Chujio coughed and said, Housekeeper Fu, I still say the same thing. I'll go visit the Yi residence after the long holiday. Housekeeper Fu saw that Yun Chujio's attitude was firm, so he had no choice but to leave respectfully once again. Seeing that Housekeeper Fu had left, Yun Chujio was about to turn around and return to Xingtian Academy when she heard a sharp voice say, Mo Fengchao. I'm warning you, you're not allowed to take even half a step into our Yi residence. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Yun Chujio turned her head and saw that the one who spoke was Yi Bingyu. Beside her were Lu Pinyin and Lu Jinlun. Yi Bingyu only found out after receiving a letter from her family that the stinky girl she had met in the psychedelic forest was actually her cousin. No wonder they looked alike. Pooey! She was merely the daughter of a concubine who had her name removed. She was not fit to be her cousin. The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. You seem to have made a mistake. It was your Yi family that repeatedly invited me, and I rejected it. Yi Bingyu, don't think that everyone is eager to go to your Yi family. I'm too lazy to go. Bitch. What you said sounded nice. Your mother is a shameless bitch. You're a bitch born of a bitch. Slap. Yun Chujio gave Yi Bingyu a hard slap and grabbed her neck. Yi Bingyu, If you dare to say anything bad about my mother again, I'll kill you. Yi Bingyu was grabbed by the neck, so she couldn't say a word. Her face was blue and purple, and she was about to suffocate. Lu Jinluan cried out in shock, "Let go of me! You're going to strangle me to death!" Yun Chujio snorted and let go of Yi Bingyu. Yi Bingyu kept coughing and finally recovered. She pounced on Yun Chujio with a ferocious look. "Bitch! How dare you hit me? I'll kill you!" Yun Chujio dodged lightly and dodged Yi Bingyu's attack. She said coldly, "If you want to be punished by the city rules or expelled from the WA Rock Academy, you can continue to fight with me. I'm barefoot anyway. I'm not afraid of you wearing shoes." Hearing that, Lu Jinluan hurriedly stopped Yi Bingyu. "Bingyu, don't be rash. She's right. If we attract the law enforcement team of Tianluo City and the academy here, it'll be bad. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time." Yi Bingyu was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. "Mo Fangchao. Good, very good. Unless you don't leave Tianluo City for the rest of your life, I will definitely tear you into pieces." Yun Chujio suddenly smiled. Her smile was unbridled and unbridled. Yi Bingyu and the other two could not help but be stunned. If Yun Chujio was originally only 80% beautiful, her smile had actually turned into 10%, no, more than 10%. It was a kind of beauty that blossomed from her bones, an indescribable beauty. "You, what are you laughing at?" After Yi Bingyu was stunned, she was deeply jealous. Once this bitch really entered the Yi family, she would definitely take away her brilliance in the future. She absolutely could not let her enter the Yi family. "Originally, I didn't plan to visit the Yi family to visit old Master Yi. But since you don't want me to go, then I can go and visit the Yi family. Maybe old Master sees that I'm smart and clever, and you, the great-granddaughter, will stand aside." Yun Chujio said with a smile. "In your dreams. Your mother has already been removed from the Yi family. Great-grandfather wants to see you, but it's only because he pitied you. Don't even think about taking advantage of the Yi family." Yi Bingyu's heart was filled with fear for no reason, she didn't know why, but when she saw Yun Chujio, she felt a sense of crisis. "Yi Bingyu, how about this? If you give me some spirit stones and flowers, I won't go to the Yi family." Yi Bingyu was stunned. There was actually such a shameless person in this world. You're shameless. In your dreams. Mo Fangchao, I'm warning you. If you want to live, don't go to our Yi family. Otherwise, Alright, the next time housekeeper Fu comes, I'll tell him that it was you, Yi Bingyu, who warned me. That's why I didn't dare to go to the Yi family. Tell me, do you think the old master will be angry when housekeeper Fu returns?" Yun Chujio said with a smile. Yi Bingyu immediately became afraid. In the Yi family, her great-grandfather's words were like an imperial edict. If her great-grandfather found out that she obstructed Mo Fangchao from going to the Yi residence, he would definitely scold her. "Mo Fangchao, if you dare to tell housekeeper Fu, I won't forgive you." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Can you still give me a fresh explanation? It's so boring. If you don't want the conversation today to reach the old master's ears, give me 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones. I'm a little short of money recently." Yi Bingyu was dumbfounded. What does being short of money have to do with me? Before Yi Bingyu could react, she saw Yun Chujio playing with a recording stone in her hand. It was the conversation between Yun Chujio and Yi Bingyu. Yi Bingyu immediately understood. "Mo Fangchao, you are too cunning. You're shameless. Hurry up and give me the recording stone." Yun Chujio waved the recording stone in her hand. "Money in one hand and goods in the other. Otherwise, you'll be scolded." Yi Bingyu was so angry that her head was buzzing. Why was it that every time she met this wretched girl, she would be eaten alive by her? She was the same as that slut of hers. Both of them were not good people. Yi Bingyu gritted her teeth and passed 1,000,000 upper-grade spirit stones to Yun Chujio, and Yun Chujio passed the recording stone to her. Then, she said with a faint smile, "Yi Bingyu, no matter what, we are related by blood. I hope you know what it means to know when to stop. Otherwise, the consequences of offending me will be very miserable. The person who once offended me has not only died, but his family has also disappeared. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. By the way, I heard that some very interesting things happened in your yard. If you don't remember, it might be even more interesting next time. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.